Mark had always believed he had a perfect marriage with Lisa. They built a life together, a beautiful home, and dreams for the future. But all of that came crashing down when he found undeniable proof of her affair with none other than his closest friend, David. The betrayal was a knife to the heart. He didn't just lose his wife, he lost his best friend in the same moment. While most people would have confronted them in a heated exchange, Mark took a different approach. He smiled, played along, and meticulously planned his next move. Mark was no ordinary man. He was strategic, calculating, and knew exactly how to make an impact. Instead of an emotional outburst, he spent weeks gathering information, ensuring his revenge would be as satisfying as possible. He took control of their finances, slowly redirecting assets into accounts they couldn't access. He hired a private investigator to dig deeper into their secrets. What he found was even more devastating. Lisa and David had been siphoning money from his business, preparing to run away together. That was the final straw. On the night Lisa and David planned to leave, Mark beat them to the punch. He cleaned out the joint accounts, sold key business assets, and liquidated everything he could. Then, he left behind a letter exposing their deceit, along with evidence of their financial fraud, delivered straight to the authorities. Lisa and David woke up to absolute chaos. Their money was gone, Mark was nowhere to be found, and soon, the police were knocking on their door. Mark had left them in ruins, financially and legally entangled in their own mess. He had vanished without a trace. Mark's journey into the unknown. Mark didn't just disappear, he reinvented himself. He had spent years building his company, investing smartly, and understanding financial loopholes. Now, armed with resources and a plan, he left for a destination unknown, shedding his old identity like a snake shedding its skin. For months, he traveled, living under the radar. He withdrew only small amounts of cash, changed his appearance slightly, and blended in with the locals wherever he went. He found solace in small, coastal towns where no one asked too many questions. In a quiet Mediterranean village, he met an elderly businessman, Pierre, who saw something in Mark, an intelligent but broken man looking for purpose. Pierre offered him an opportunity, manage his boutique investment firm and rebuild something for himself. Mark took it, diving headfirst into the world of international business and investment. He was a quick learner, and within a year, he had grown Pierre's business significantly. He mastered foreign markets, expanded investment portfolios, and found success beyond what he had imagined. Slowly, his pain began to fade, replaced by ambition and newfound fulfillment. Meanwhile, Lisa and David were drowning. The legal battles over the financial fraud case drained their resources. Mark had left them just enough evidence to implicate them, but not enough to land them in prison outright. They were forced to pay restitution, sell assets, and take whatever jobs they could find to survive. Lisa, who once enjoyed a lavish lifestyle, found herself waiting tables at a diner. The humiliation stung, but what hurt more was the realization that David, the man she had risked everything for, was not the partner she thought he was. Resentment grew between them. Arguments turned to screaming matches, and before long, they parted ways, both blaming the other for their downfall. David tried to make a fresh start in another city but struggled to find stable work. His past mistakes followed him, and opportunities dried up. He found himself alone, broke, and filled with regret. 5 years later, Mark walked back into his old town, not as the broken man who had left, but as a force of nature. He was wealthier, more powerful, and unrecognizable in his confidence. He had returned for closure, to see what had become of the two people who had betrayed him. Lisa spotted him first. Her hands trembled as she wiped a table, her heart hammering in her chest. She barely recognized the man before her. He looked refined, successful, untouchable. She approached hesitantly, her voice trembling. "Mark." But Mark simply smiled and shook his head. "No need, Lisa. I already know." He turned away, leaving her standing there, frozen in place, as David looked on in utter defeat. Mark had no reason to gloat, his success spoke for itself. He walked away, knowing he had already won the moment he chose to rise above their betrayal. And just like that, Mark disappeared again, this time on his own terms, without a single regret. Mark boarded a plane that evening, heading toward a new chapter of his life. He had no intention of looking back. The past had served its purpose, it had made him stronger, wiser, and more resilient. He was ready for whatever came next, knowing that the best revenge wasn't destruction but success beyond anyone's imagination. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more stories.